Welcome to the Show Me the Way podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Miller, and I'm so excited to bring this show to you. Show Me the Way is a podcast dedicated to exploring the journeys of those who have faced adversity and found themselves on unexpected paths. We will have meaningful, thoughtful conversations about challenges we have faced and how we discovered and forged new direction. Prepare to be inspired and to uncover your own strength as you listen to relatable and motivating stories. Life has a way of twisting and turning, and we often need a fresh perspective to understand how to navigate. Let's show each other the way. Yay! We welcomed our second male guest to the show. I was so excited to sit down with my friend Joe Wallen. In this episode, Joe opens up about his journey of self-discovery, career changes, and ultimately finding his purpose in an unexpected place. While family and being a dad remain Joe's top priority, he shares his ongoing search for meaningful work, something that brought both joy and the ability to serve others. Like me, Joe has worn many hats across different industries, always open to learning and growing. But after a tough stint trying to work for a friend and his business, he knew something had to change. That change came from a conversation his wife had with a friend who worked in their local school district. Though Joe had no formal teaching background, education had always been a dream of his. With encouragement and a leap of faith, he interviewed for a teaching role, honestly unsure if he could make it work. But he showed up authentically and they saw his potential. Today, Joe is thriving in special education, a field that allows him to be both impactful and creative. His story is full of heart, honesty, and inspiration. Tune in and be reminded that sometimes the right path finds you. You just have to be open to it. And we are back with the Show Me the Way podcast. Today's guest is our second male guest. I'm really happy to continue to diversify with those we have had on the show and all of the conversations. And with that, please help me welcome Joe Wallen, who I've known for quite some time as he's married to one of my sorority sisters and good friends from college. Joe and I also worked in the same industry when he was involved in processing loans, and we had a few real estate deals together. Joe is one of those guys that can really change the whole dynamic of a room when he walks in. He's full of life and energy and just brings joy to everybody he's around. He's super easy to talk to, and I consider him a great friend, and I knew he would be a perfect guest for the show. Joe, like I said, is a husband to a great woman, is a father of two, and is now a teacher, which seems like a perfect role for him based on his fun and awesome personality. Welcome to the show, Joe. Thank you so much for being here. Of course. This is awesome. I keep telling everybody, we have so many women. I really want to have more men. And I want this podcast to be for everybody, not just for women my age. So I'm really happy that you're here. Yes, I like that. Yes. Maybe women, they just love to share their stories, but I know that men have stories too. So thank you for being here. Before we jump into whatever's on your heart this morning, I would just love to hear from your words just a little bit more about you. I know I shared a few things, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about you?
Well, you didn't say
What
so.
I didn't say, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a dad first in the world. I always have been. My oldest is going to be 24 this year, which is insane. She's an art teacher locally here in the same district I work in, which is amazing. My son is an eighth grader, a 14-year-old, and he's every definition of a teenage boy at this point. Needs a lot of motivation and accountability and encouraging, but has the biggest heart in the world and is very eerily like myself, which is fun and scary at the same time. So yeah, I dad first. I mentioned being married. I'm married to Carrie for 16 years as of yesterday.
Happy
Yesterday, wait,
anniversary.
yeah, 2 days ago. 2 days ago.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Then yeah, I just like our host. I've changed careers a few times in my life. And I'm pretty sure I have you beat as far as total number. We can discuss that later. But yes, I'm a teacher with a Wallen Consolidated School District, about 6 minutes from the house, which is awesome for lunchtime. And I've been my third year there, and it's definitely a calling. If that's what my heart's going to be talking about today. Yeah, that's other than everything you just said about me, other than first and second grade. That's a small summation of myself.
Yes, well, perfect. Yeah, I love that you said you're a dad first. That's really important, and you can tell just by how you are with your kids and the different posts you make on social media and just what I hear you guys are always up to. So that's great. Yeah. I have a 15-year-old boy, so I get everything you said about the teenage thing. That's
Yes.
totally spot on.
Yes.
Totally spot on. So, yeah, I tell everybody on the Show Me the Way podcast, it's really just about people sharing stories. Now, it started obviously talking about my 15-year-old and his journey with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And I just wanted a platform where I could talk about. I thought my path was going one direction and it really needed to pivot a complete 180 10 years ago. And to Joe's point, I've had a lot of different jobs. I've worn a lot of different hats because if I get to a point where I'm not having joy anymore, and work is work, but I still believe people should have joy with when they go into an office or when they do something that fills their time. So when I would find a spot where I didn't really love it anymore, I would definitely try a new job. So that's a pivot, but really the major pivot was when I decided, okay, I can't be in the corporate office anymore. So since then, I've continued to wear other hats, but some of them have stayed on a little bit longer. But anyway, I just love when people share times in their life where they thought they were going one way, they thought they were going to continue at the same company for some time, they thought they were going to stay in the same house forever, they thought they were going to just continue down the same direction that they'd been on, and then something comes up. So sometimes people share really dramatic stories like a health diagnosis for themselves or their kids. Sometimes they talk about grief, sometimes they talk about something that happened with their marriage, but it's also just life in general. I mean, sometimes you just decide to start a new job and it may sound like it's not a story, but it really is. And you've learned perspective and others can too. So that's why we're here. That's why I started this podcast. I do believe our stories can help other people. I think not that we're that old, but Joe and I are around the same age and we've had more experience because of that. So sometimes I wish 20-year-olds would listen to this a little more. So we're gonna keep diversifying. We're gonna keep trying to touch all ages and all genders because I think these perspectives would be great to hear when we're younger as well. To hear, wow, someone's been through all of this in their life. When you're in your early 20s, you're thinking, oh, this is my path. That's it. And they don't realize that they're going to be all kinds of different directions and they're going to take all kinds of turns. So I do think we can all learn from any story you share. So all that being said, I told Joe, let's just talk about whatever's on your heart. If it's a specific incident that you want to focus on, or if you just want to talk about your journey in adulthood in general. So with that, I'm
Here
gonna
we go.
I'm gonna let you talk. I'm gonna be quiet for a few minutes, and yeah, just tell us what you're thinking about.
Well, it's interesting because when you think about pivoting, it can be very small, it can be very big. Um, and it can be of your own choice or not. And obviously the ones from our own choice are a little bit hopefully more shiny and happy and the ones we want to do with our lives, but possibly the ones that we don't want to do are the ones we learn more from. And again, not in the way that we want to. I guess if we're talking about a fun story and a current story of where I'm at now, I had worked in the mortgage industry for I don't know 11 years almost off and on, with 7 to 8 years being the longest run I had. And then I had a friend that I had known for a while. He tried to get me to work for his company, doing financial advising for some time, and a very good friend. And I finally just made the leap because things were changing with the banks and the mortgage industry, and that was kind of getting crazy, as you know. So I jumped in, full boat. Hey, I'm going to be a financial advisor for this Christian-based company. I like their morals, I like their ethics, and it just seemed like the right thing. And great people, but what it ended up being was a lot of studying for things that I literally had no interest in. So I spent a year and a half force feeding myself information that I didn't want to keep. That, I mean, looking back, I don't want to say I didn't care about because I cared about for the company, for the people, but as far as a passion, I mean, it was just not there. So I passed my first exam and I went to take my next exam and I failed that. And I'm usually not someone that fails a lot of things. I do okay at things, and that's who I am. But I took it a second time, and I failed it again. And at this point, the company's kind of looking at me like, did we make the right investment in this person? And I'm looking at myself in the mirror saying the same thing. And I took the test the third time, missed it by a half a point, failed the third time. So at this point, I'm taking it as a sign. I'm looking for a sign. I'm miserable. I'm stuffed in a small office, just reviewing the same things over and over again. And I don't want to disappoint my friend in his family business and his livelihood. So I decide to up and I'm out. All right, I'm done. So this is in December of 22, and I was looking for something nonprofit. I had done nonprofits in the past. I had worked with churches and whatnot and families, and that's something I wanted to get back into in some way, just because I wanted to wake up and feel good about myself instead of just waking up and rinsing and repeating and the same thing over and over again, while realizing that you still have to pay bills and you still have responsibilities, and you can't just willy-nilly jump up and say, hey, I'm done, I got to figure this out. But I did. So it is what it is. So I had several interviews with different nonprofits and a couple offers, and some were okay. And it wasn't even about the money. Obviously, I had left a couple good industries that I was making good money at, and just wanted something that I could attach myself to. And my wife actually ran into, here goes the chain, my son's best friend's mom, who was a teacher at Keith Elementary in our district, where Brady went to elementary school. And he said, "How's everything going? And what's Joe doing?" And she told him that I left the job, and she's like, "Well, does he want to teach?" And she's like, "Well, he would love to. That's what he's been talking about, going back to get a certificate, but it's something he can't do right now." And she's like, "Well, there's a special program that will help him get a certification." And she goes, "I don't know everything about it, but have him call the principal at this elementary school." So I called her the next day, left a voicemail. She called me right back, and she's like, "Hey, we have this program. We can get you going." And so I had a 20-minute interview over the phone, and she's like, I want you to meet the assistant superintendent of the school." And I said, "Okay, sure." So 2 days later, I met with him, and he grilled me pretty hard. It was a year 46, 47 years old at this point. "This is going to be a lot of work. This classroom that we have in mind is going to be very challenging. Are you sure?" I mean, that's what it came down to. He's like, "Are you sure?" I said, "Dude, I need to follow my heart, and I need to do something that's going to make a difference. Not just for how I feel in the world, either on a small scale or a big scale, or one drop may lead to another, and maybe something great happens to one of these kids." So he's like, "Well, I want you to go shadow a classroom there at the school, Pleasant Lake Elementary. It's an autism classroom. I just want you to go make sure that this is what you want to do." And I said, "Great." So I got there and wasn't nervous, a little bit overdressed for wrestling around with kids, as I found out. But I went down to the classroom. Thing I encounter, big kid. It's only third, fourth, and fifth graders. This big kid comes up to me, and he's just a little bit shorter than me. He's about 100 pounds, and he's like, "Hey, give me hugs." And I said, "Okay." And I gave him a hug, and he squeezed me and he pushed me and he goes, "Okay," and walked away. And I was like, "All right, this is a good start." So they ended up sitting me down with him and another kid working on a puzzle. And at no point was I concerned, was I worried, was I put off by these kids. I just felt like I was sitting in the right place. Um, I spent, the entire day there, went back to the principal. Then I had my final interview with the panel. So it was the principal, it was a social worker, a speech pathologist, another ASD teacher, and a resource room teacher. So it's a full panel of special services. And we're going through it, and I'm saying the right things because I'm being honest. I'm not, trying to convince them. And they kind of get to the end of it, and they're like, "Well, we really like you. We like your approach. We like, the feel of you. You just seem like you're a good person. You want to do the right thing. But what do you know about?" And they started asking about a specific teaching method. And as they're talking, my mind's just going like Beautiful Mind. I'm like, I have no idea what they're saying, and all these like shapes and formulas are going across the screen, and I know I'm just staring, and I see one of the ladies start to smile. I said, "I want to be here." And they just stopped. And like at that moment, I'm like, I either really did myself in, or I got this job. And they just blew up and started laughing. They're like, "That's what we want here. This is the kind of person we want here." And like, you can learn the teaching side if you have the patience to do everything, and if you have the right demeanor, which it seems like you do, you'll be great here. So That was on a Thursday. I started that next Tuesday. It was February 27th, 2023, I believe it was. And I was literally dropped into a classroom with four nonverbal, aggressive, quasi can be violent at times kids, and I had one para at the time. You're supposed to have two, which is what it was. It is what it is. But about 10 days later, she says, "Hey, I got another opportunity. I have to leave." Okay, so now I'm brand new as a teacher in an autism classroom, self-contained. We keep the doors locked. So we have runners, we have biters, we have hitters, we have kickers. So I go to the principal. I'm like, "What are we doing?" "All right, we're looking for paras." So the rest of the year, I finished out with no paras. I had help from especially two women there, Joey and Erica, the speech pathologist and social worker. They saved my butt a lot throughout the year as far as helping me learn what an IEP was, learn how to spell IEP. So they would come in when they weren't dealing with their caseload and help me, but for the most part, I was on my own with four students. And the funny part was, I don't know if it's funny or just kind of odd, but the first week, probably the first 2 weeks, I had six people say, "So you're coming back the next day, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm coming back tomorrow." "Why does everyone keep asking me this?" And I just didn't get it. I knew what kind of kids I was working with or trying to work with. It kind of felt like I was on my heels a bit, and it was kind of like an aggressive daycare. And I needed to figure out a way to get through the first year and eventually get to the point where I knew what the heck I'm doing, because I literally just felt like I was in the classroom just trying to keep them safe, and I didn't know where to look on IEPs as to what their goals were, or what we should be working on. Had no curriculum. That was another fun thing. The special services department had no curriculum at that point. So I walked into a classroom full of about 100 worksheets, varying worksheets for math, for writing, for reading, and a handful of toys. This classroom was thrown together that year. They kind of added an additional ASD room, but it felt cold. It felt like a cold doctor's office. There was literally probably three or four toys, nothing really to play with. And you have to remember, they're not just 6 and 7 year olds by numerical age. Cognitively, they could be two, they could be three, they could be anywhere. So not having anything to keep them at bay, we had a lot of behaviors. We had a lot of tough behaviors, and I got kicked a lot. I probably don't need a vasectomy at this point in my life. I got kicked so many times. Um, so maybe that'll save some money down the road. I don't know, but um, we got to the end of the school year, and I was just like, yeah, this is it. Like, I felt so at ease, and the success I had was quick when I figured out how to keep everybody safe and how to quickly work with the kid. The best one was, I won't say his name, because but he was nonverbal. He didn't speak. They had their talkers, their AAC devices to request things to a certain extent. They all weren't comfortable with it. I took him from 0 words to 121 sight words within 2.5 months. And and the speech pathologist would come down and just kind of have that holy moment, like, this is amazing. And I would probably scare him a lot, because he would say a word and I would start cheering and clapping loudly, and he would jump back. I'm like, I'm sorry, I know, you're sensitive, it's okay. But yeah, to take him from nothing to finding the rhythm that he needed to learn, and that's what I feel like it is. Each kid has their own rhythm, and it's very different. There are some similarities within autism, but for the most part, you just have to see how they're seeing things, how they communicate, how they don't communicate. It's a spectrum for a reason. So, anyways, that was my first year, and now I'm in my third year, but still no certification. At this point, I'm on an emergency certification. All I think I have to do at this point is get certified. So over that first summer, I get several emails saying, "Hey, you have to be enrolled in a program by August 27th, or your emergency certification's gone." So now I'm scrambling looking for programs that I know nothing about. I hear that dog. So finally, I find this program called Talent Together. I apply for it. I write this essay. I I, I hear back on the 23rd, and I had to be enrolled by the 27th. So on the 23rd, I hear back that I've been accepted into the program. I had to write this. It wasn't just part of the thesis. It was me having to explain how crappy of a student I had been in high school, in college. I mean, when I was in college, I went to class to earn my 2.0 so I could play basketball. I mean, that was my motivation. I didn't have an end goal when I was in college other than graduating, because I was the first one in my family to graduate from college. That's what I wanted to get to. I wanted that to be it. So I never really, I'm making the bunny ears, applied myself, and so I had to explain it. Like, look, I'm a lifelong 2.5 student asking to get into a master's program in a autism certification program that you're saying requires a 3.5. And I just kind of poured my heart out on this essay, and I was, I said why I wanted to do it. I talked about some of the success I had, and I was accepted 4 days before the deadline, so I was able to keep my job. And then that began 15 months of my first full year as a teacher. We were able to hire a couple paras for my second year, which is my first full year, and I'm doing a 36-month clinical Masters of Clinical Autism program in 15 months. We had talked a little bit earlier about pivoting and what that means, and I think when you're doing something you love and something that fits, I don't want to say you don't see it as work, but you just kind of see it as have to, and something that's just, it is what it is. And did I love going to the library every weekend and missing out on a ton of things and getting frustrated? No, not at all. I can't drive past the library right now. Without saying choice words that Andrea would have to bleep out on here. But you did it. I did it. I just stuck with it, and that was the messed up part. Coming from the 2.5, and I'm rounding up that 2.5, but coming from that type of a student to the master's program, I mean, I graduated with a 3.89, which had never happened. Maybe in one class somewhere, but that was, I mean, the only reason that happened is because I was discovering names for things I was doing every day. Things that I had been doing for a year and a half at that point were finally getting terms put to them and solutions put to them. And I wanted to learn more. And it got so bad, and I'll say me doing well in college got so bad that the last 3 months of the program, I had the head of the program and another one come to me and ask me if I wanted to go for my doctorate, to which I laughed quickly and thanked them for their
Oh
their
my
offer,
gosh.
and said, that would be amazing, but I really don't want to do anything past professional development the rest of my life, if that's okay. I'm still triggered by books, so that's a fear I have. And even like, if it's curious, if you go back on Facebook at some point, watch my graduation video, you'll see me go over in the corner and hug somebody, and it's the assistant director or dean saying, "Okay, is it time for the doctorate now?" And so yeah, 2.5 when I took a step back from it, and I was like, would any of my friends seriously be able to call me Dr. Wallen or Dr. Joe without laughing there? It would be challenging. But that being said, they did say that whenever I'm ready, I could essentially teach some of the classes that I took for my master's program through them and just kind of become like something on the side. It's kind of like a side gig since I'm always looking to do more. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. So you have your master's, you are good to teach as long as you said continuing education, right?
Yep, I have to. So I have to take my last certification, which will be for autism, really anytime. So I'll probably take it sometime in May. From what I understand, it's not crazy difficult. I give myself anxiety with tests. I always have, but it's more situational things like that happen within the classroom. So I'll be fine with that.
And I had a question. First of all, I should know this, but you said ASD. What does that stand for?
Autism spectrum disorder.
Okay. I guess maybe I haven't heard it presented that way before. So that's what your specific classroom is.
Correct. Yeah. So they
Okay.
they have they have autism. They have ASD rooms. They have cross cat rooms, which are like a mixture of emotional and cognitively impaired and autism kids. It just kind of depends on what the school has space for, or how many kids are there and what they have. So I have 6 kids in my class, and all 6 are considered autistic, but one probably needs a different change of placement, more of an emotionally impaired, the kind of kid that can play more, that can interact, that can socialize more, and then kids with autism. So yeah, that's kind of the big ones, the big 3 or so.
And you said first, second, third graders. Like when you come back the next school year, is it the same kids or does it change?
It changes. So I'm kind of the middle class. So there's a kindergarten class for ASD. Then there's myself, which is usually first, second, and third. This year I have 5 second graders and 1 kindergartner. He came in late in the school year, so I just kind of got him. But kind of the process is the first teacher gets them used to being in a school, just being at school in general, how to interact, schedule, and then I get them more comfortable with sitting at the table, and more longevity thing as far as their patience and their ability to focus and everything, my ability to focus. But and then I kind of get them ready to go up to the upper L, which is the fourth and fifth, where they kind of get them prepped for middle school. So I like where I'm at right now. I've been asked kind of, I wouldn't want to do the kindergartners. And I don't know where this is going to take me. I don't know if I'll end up at middle school somewhere. My daughter Cora, that's an art teacher, her favorite classes to teach are the ASD classes in their school. So we actually talked about putting together some type of program where her and I would be travel art teachers just for kids with autism within the district itself. So and we put together a class that we want to offer for kids on campus for kids on autism next year. So again, filling that time that I just got back, but why not, right?
That is so cool. I just had one more question about working directly in that particular situation. What is the parent involvement? What's it like working with the parents?
Uh, most are okay, and look, most are doing everything they can. They didn't ask for the situation. It's just something that happens. It's lifelong. I mean, once they graduate from high school, they can't just kick them out. It's maybe a few of them, and it just kind of depends where they're at in the spectrum. But so some of the parents are very, very amazing, and they're in that same space that I would be if it was me. Some make it more challenging than helping the kids, and that's the sad part that I didn't know until I got involved with it and found out what being a mandated reporter is. Um, and I don't like having to deal with that or be involved with it, but we have to look at the child's welfare, and I've had to follow my job several times, and that sucks because I can't imagine someone coming at me and saying, if you're not doing your job as a parent, this is what people are noticing. What the heck? But it's also patterns in certain parents, just like it's patterns with everything else. You can't hold on to it too much because it'll drive you crazy because it just doesn't make sense because you do it do everything you can for your kids, and I do everything not just for my kids in the house, but my kids in the classroom. Their own blood isn't doing that for them. I have an issue with that. I guess to say that to go on top of that, I think the benefit of me being in the private sector for so long before becoming a teacher is I don't hold my tongue. Not with admin, not with the principal, not with special services department, because at the end of the day, we're in a school. We're in a school with kids, and we want to keep them safe. We want to do the best we can for them. And when a district starts having to turn into a business, which they all do, there's some really crappy decisions that are made. Like I said earlier, we didn't have a curriculum for a year and a half, and we were just making it up. And on top of making up being a teacher, going off of that, yeah, the parents can be challenging, but like everybody else, you just try to see the good in everybody and hope for the best. And if not, you get through the school year and hope they don't come back after June.
I just was curious because speaking as a parent, just do wonder what it's like for the teacher. So I just really wanted your perspective. And I also have a really good friend who has a child on the spectrum. And so I get her perspective, but I don't hear the teacher side. So I just kind of wanted to connect those dots for me and probably for listeners too, because I'm sure people can relate to this. So I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's probably the case in every situation, that there's good and bad, and there's things that follow along with what you would expect, and then there's things that come up that are unexpected that you have to deal with in an appropriate way. But to segue into a more positive part of this conversation, listening to you talk, it's like you've been a teacher your entire career. And it's so cool to listen and to hear about it. I've heard a little from your wife's perspective, but just listening to you talk about your whole experience, it really does feel like you found your calling. I like that. You're very much like me. I mean, your wife has told me this several times. You and Joe are much more alike,
Yeah,
because we are, I don't know, constantly trying to find our passion and our joy, and we don't just want to have a job. We want to have something that we can feel good about. And I think a lot of people feel that way, but some people are better at holding on to a stable condition than others. Um, and I'm just so happy to hear you talk passionately about something that you're doing, because I've seen you in your other jobs and it's been like, yeah, I'm helping my family and I'm trying to make money. And I appreciate that you wanted to do something nonprofit and trying to find the right fit for that. But even that, it wasn't always like exactly what you wanted or needed. So it just seems like you finally found a great place. And I really love that you're able to use your creativity, maybe frustrating at times, but there wasn't a curriculum. So now you can tune into your creative understanding and try to come up with something, or what you're trying to do with your daughter. I think that's really fun. So not only did you find something that you're passionate about and something that really makes a difference for you, but you can also keep that creative side going, which I know is
yeah.
important as well. So that's wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I really didn't know if that's the direction you were going to go in, but I'm glad that you shared that, because people need to hear. Also, you mentioned your age. You know, sometimes people say I'm too old to start something new, or I can't get into something. And why not? You know, life is short, and you've proven you can do whatever you need to do at whatever age.
Yeah. And the amazing part about that is because I worked at Schoolcraft before, I was grandfathered into retirement. So now when I turn 60, which is 10 years from this November, I can retire with a full pension, and I can do the teaching at different universities or community colleges, and everything fell in line perfectly, and it wasn't forced. And it's just amazing when life does that for you, isn't it?
It really is. It's also really nice to have a significant other that's patient with us.
No, they don't have a choice.
True. They knew what
Yeah,
they were getting into, right?
that's what it is. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's great. Again, it's just really nice when people find their passion. And yeah, I have friends. I have somebody that's going back to nursing school now, and she's later in life. I mean, that I just say go after it. So good for you. And maybe you will be Dr. Joe someday.
It just you say it, I start laughing. It just doesn't sound right. It sounds like I sell tires or something like that.
Dr. Joe. I don't know. I'd probably say Dr. Wallen,
Yeah.
but yeah. And I give you a lot of credit too, because a special need situation like that, that's not for everybody either. I think that takes a very special person. So right when you walked in the door and that student wanted to hug you, he probably knew right off the bat that you were that kind of person.
Yeah.
So that is wonderful. Well, generally, I give my guests an opportunity to provide some kind of perspective or advice, or what would you say to your younger self? You've given us some good pieces throughout, but I will give you the opportunity if there's something that you think you've learned through this whole process that you would want to share.
Yeah, I guess I would say, if it's not too much of a blanket statement, just because you get a bachelor's degree in your early 20s, it doesn't mean that's what you're going to be when you're 40, when you're 50, when you're 30, when you're 25. So many of us are kind of herded into that. Okay, you're going to go into the trades, you're going to go into school. What's going to be one of the two? And you pick something, and you're expected to pick something. But how can you pick what your heart's passion is if you don't know who you are? I mean, that's why you need the experience. That's why you need the life experience and the job experience and trying different things. And that's why I am where I am, because I've had 39 jobs in my life. Just knowing that just because you chose a path when you're younger and you have experience in doing it, it doesn't mean that's who you are and who that's going to be for the rest of your life. You can change whenever, or you can stay whenever. It just kind of depends on not just your passion, but your self motivation. And it doesn't mean you're a bad person or a good person if you're not motivated to change your path. It just means that's who you are in this world. It's okay.
Right. I think that's great. And it makes me think a lot about my older son who's 18. You're right. Like, what do you really know about yourself other than the things that you enjoy to do? Outside of that, you're like, okay, pick a major.
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, there are some people that knew they wanted to do something their whole lives. I have a friend she has 4 children, and 3 of them, they already do seem very interested in something specific. She has 2 that are in college, and they're like, this is what I want to be. I've wanted to do this since I was 12, and it's working out. And that's really awesome. But I don't think that's the case for everybody.
Yeah.
And then, my son, I was like, if you're not passionate about something like that, I mean, awesome if you are, but if you're not, go the business route, because then it can open doors for several different things when you do figure out what you like. So that's kind of the route he's taking right now, but who knows where he'll be in 10 years or 15 years, or maybe he'll be a podcaster someday. I don't know. So the door's always open. There's always something out there. There's opportunities everywhere if you're looking, or if you know where to look. I was talking to someone last night who's actually a mutual friend of ours, and I was asking him about his job, and he was like, it's okay. And I thought, you know me, like, if you want something else, go look for it. It's not always easy. I understand stability is important, but it's okay to also see what else is out there.
And I will say the last thing. It doesn't have to be later in life. My daughter Cora, when she went to Central Michigan, she wanted to be in the FBI. She wanted to be an FBI agent. This is what she was going to do. She's looking at political science. She was just going into it, and she's an art teacher. And it all just kind of organically changed, and it presented itself, and she found that passion, at least for this part of her life, for this portion of her life, early. And she's doing well with it, and she's seeing the benefits, and she seems somewhat happy. So that's good.
Good. You're right. And actually, I'm glad you said that, because I had my niece on here a few weeks ago, and she's 25. And it's the same thing. Like, she's already changed her career a couple of times, and she's just trying to figure out what's best. But I'm glad it's good to see that she's doing it right now. It's just really good to have other people on here, other voices, other perspective. And yes, we have a lot of things in common, but just getting like a male perspective is really fun. And I'm hoping that we're just going to keep doing that with this podcast and keep growing it. And everybody has a story to share. And again, even the people I've known for 20 some years, I don't know where they're going to go. And I learned something new. So that was really fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for having
Well,
me. I really appreciate it.
of course. Thanks for being on. And yeah, maybe we'll do a second episode and you can talk about, what did you say? Thrifting?
My yeah. So this is what the folks call a teaser in the podcast industry, Andrea. So yes, I started. I've been thrifting and collecting for years, and last year I made a little bit over 11 grand in 8 months. just as a side business because I can't get the business out of myself. I still need to do something where I'm selling or doing something. So
Yeah.
yeah, that could be a whole nother conversation, definitely.
That is really cool. There's nothing wrong with filling your time, especially like I said, with things that bring you joy or that you can get excited about. Life is short, so keep going after it. Keep being an inspiration. I love it. You're making me want to go fill my time. So
Good.
with something else, another hat. I don't know.
Awesome.
So thanks for being on.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you for joining me for the Show Me the Way podcast. I truly appreciate you tuning in to today's episode about overcoming adversity and finding your path. I hope it brought you new insights, empowered you with perspective, and inspired you to find joy in your journey. If this episode touched your heart, don't forget to leave a quick review as it will help us reach and motivate more people. Until next time, keep seeking the light and showing the way.